is All Quiet on the Western Front. This is Edward Berger's German war epic. This is a great picture. Watch it on the biggest screen you can watch it on with the best sound you can watch it with, because it's beautifully sound mixed. It's beautifully shot. It's a foreign picture. It premiered at Toronto, if I'm not mistaken, at TIFF. And since then, it's just been getting nothing but great reviews.
Yeah. Nominations for this film include Best International Feature Film,
which used to be Best Foreign. I'm sorry, now it's Best International.
Yeah. Best Achievement in Makeup and Hairstylings, Best Achievement in Music Written for Motion Pictures, Best Sound, Best Achievement in Visual Effects, Best Motion Picture of the Year, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Achievement in Cinematography, Best Achievement in Production Design. So
I'll say that 10 times fast.
Okay, Best International. No, so yeah.
So let's talk about this.
Let's do a quick run of all of our numbers, just where we're rating this 1 to 10, and then we'll give a tiny synopsis of the film in case you haven't seen it, so that way we can give some love.
That's where you want to kick us off?
You know, I'm a big fan of these type of films. It's just the intensity.
Super intense, for sure.
Yeah, I know you guys are. That was a good intro, but I think you don't like this film, right?
I liked it. No.
You hated 1917. Okay.
Oh, no, that's a big point of discussion. This film trumps 1917 by
we don't have time.
So what's your number? We're just going to quickly gun them off.
I'll give it an 8.7.
8.7.
Wow.
Carlos.
8.9?
8.9.
Yeah, that was up there. I thought
It's good.
Austin.
Just to shit on the other film that came out 2 years ago, the based on this, give it a 9.17.
Wow.
9.17?
You get it.
You got it? I like it.
I think, okay, I really enjoyed this. I'm going to give it a 9.3. It was in my wheelhouse.
9.3? Yeah, no, for cinematography, by the way.
Yeah, 9.3.
This was shot.
Editing.
And Miguel, you're here. Do you want to...
What rating would you give All Quiet? Have you seen All Quiet yet?
No, but my honest reaction to it after not watching it...
Go for it.
A solid 4. I don't know.
Okay, our intern is giving it a solid 4.
Yeah, we're going to mute that for sure.
Yeah, so you're not lasting long, but it's okay.
Dude, you're 2 minutes in, dude. So.
All right, so...
Yeah, I think it's all pretty high.
I don't know.
But by the way, don't be surprised if you get 9s for all of these films. They're the best films of the year.
Well,
these categorically.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
we'll get there.
Can you give us
too nice.
The elevator pitch of what this film is? Or?
Yeah, so set in World War I, between Germany and France. Really, it kind of starts out in Germany, and then we follow a group of guys, but mostly our key character played by Felix Kammerer. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. The film also stars David Braun and this really, really appealing smaller role, but it's still nonetheless very important to the film. But we follow this kid essentially who can't be drafted or is forbidden to go into the war by his father, and he decides to just kind of do it because he doesn't want to be left behind in the small town. He wants to go with his friends and fight for his country, so to speak. And then he very quickly, literally day one, realizes that the war sucks really badly and loses a good chunk of his friend just in that one battle that first night. And from there, it's really all downhill. Germany was not a powerhouse in the early 1900s.
It was W1.
It was World War I, and it wasn't World War II. Let's just put it that way. And they lost. They did lose. You know, they ultimately surrendered to France. So it takes that trajectory. But we follow this one boy from his first day at war to his last, at least in this battle. I'll leave it at that. But this. Very compelling. They make just like any war film, right? We get relationships, we get people getting these friendships that you fall in love with these people, and then you very quickly realize I can't get to it attached because it's war.
I'll say that this film has a beautiful commentary about just I guess, how would you say, the sad reality of war.
Sure.
They even kind of talk at the very end as far as like what was gained and lost far as distance on the Western Front. And you realize...
Was it something like 3 feet?
Yeah.
That's what they said at the end. It was like they only gained a matter of a couple feet.
So you realize that so many people lives were lost and for no reason.
I think the number was like 17 million.
So yeah. And what I appreciate about that is, I was actually talking to Miguel about this earlier. What I appreciated about that is this film wasn't wasn't pushy about that. It wasn't pushy on like based on actual events.
No,
Like it
no.
wasn't.
And I
It wasn't
love,
harping
That's
on
true.
these, you know. Like it was just a good story to tell set in this time.
and I love the moments where the main character, he'd have to be fighting like a French soldier or so, and when they were in combat, and then after they had their combat, then they kind of look at each other.
Oh
and
my God.
It's that
As
realization
humans,
as
like,
humans,
as humans.
and
There was 2 instances of
there
that.
was
though.
multiple times
Yeah.
that happened, and
Where he reverted to like this
Yeah.
childlike
And it's
state
like-
of, I'm sorry, comrade. I'm sorry. Like oh,
yeah,
man.
and you know, when you see that, it brings this
Heavy,
human
heavy,
element into the people that are on the front lines.
You know what I like about this film too? Something that we don't really see in terms of. I mean, it was definitely more prominent in the earlier wars, more than now. But the lack of food and resources. There's
Oh,
always
yeah.
talk about
Always
that,
eating
but
the
here
bread.
they were literally anytime they would find food was like
In the middle when they took over the French trenches
Yeah.
and they just
Into the
stopped
kitchen.
fighting and they just started eating.
yeah,
Yeah.
like it's
That's beautiful, dude.
you don't see that a ton in war films, even though it's a big topic with
And
this guy.
it's also like a big. It's kind of like a big turning point for like the
Oh,
characters.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, but no, I think I've seen 1917. I've seen Dunkirk, and watching this one, all really much in that same era. And I appreciate how the cinematography and everything about the execution of this film brought you into it,
That's what
brought
I
you
was
into
gonna
the
say.
human element of it.
Yeah, they used the current tools that we have for filmmaking. They used them in a magnificent. Like we haven't had a war film like this compelling, but using the
Yes.
right tools for
Yeah.
cinema. Like very, very,
Yeah.
very actively. I mean, everything from the cinematography to the score, to the directing, the camera movement,
Oh,
everything.
the score.
Was,
Acting.
really, you didn't feel great about the
Yeah.
score? I
We
thought
had
it was-
discussions about it. I
It
think.
bugged me. It felt too modern.
Yeah, it had
It
like
was very
it
like
had like a dubstep remix
Yeah.
sound to it. You know?
Oh.
Yeah.
I felt like it was too a little on the horror side, but isn't that the point?
I felt it was too
It took
dubstep-y.
you out of it.
Like,
Yeah.
Did it?
Yeah.
But because I feel like most films we've seen are very much like a classical score, and this one was very much like
But
that.
maybe that's the point, right?
Maybe.
I mean, maybe.
By the way,
I didn't love. You're right. At first, it threw me, and then I was like, kind of like this. I
It
kinda
actually
feel
threw
like,
me out of it. Like,
Ah, did it really?
anytime it
I
come
want
up.
to hear more from you, Castro, as far as what you thought of the acting. But the last kind of note I'll say that really got to me, and I reflected on at the very end of the film, was that opening scene with the foxes. And I know that's like a little like okay, it's kind of cute and all that. Well, they were called foxholes, the little trenches that they were running through. But the big kind of takeaway that I noticed at the very end of the film, looking back, is that the foxes were arranged in like a family, and even though they were animals, it was like they were banded together. And then
Yeah.
also
Sure.
those notes as far as food, you
Right.
see them all kind of like just scavenging for food,
Ah,
and it's those in like human needs, those
Yeah,
natural
yeah.
primal needs of like food and family and safety and
Yeah,
shelter.
yeah.
So I love that parallel and thinking about that parallel
Oh,
throughout the
fantastic.
rest of the film. So yeah, those are my thoughts. But Coster, while we still have time,
We,
what did
we
you
need
think
we
about-
need to jump into cinematography. I think we talked about it at the end because I do think this
Yeah,
is a
for
very
sure.
strong case for cinematography.
Absolutely.
But performances.
No, to me, I mean, I see this just as a bigger picture because I'm an aspiring actor, so I rate it or I base it off like if I believe it, and it's one of those films. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those
Yeah,
films.
you're big on that. You're big on
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Like, did I get lost in the whole explosions and everything? And I think they did a great job, dude. I mean, when I dive in deep into it, I could understand like, man, this was World War One. I can understand how PTSD happened. You get a bigger
Yeah.
picture of it, right? You
I
get a-
remember you were saying
Yeah, you
that,
kept
like,
saying
man,
that.
I can't imagine seeing that and then going back home and being fine. Like,
Exactly.
Right, and they talk about that in the film.
Mhm.
Like they do talk about like I can't imagine going back to like being a shoemaker and like what is it? What's this life gonna be now?
Yeah, yeah.
That's big. That's
And
big.
we've seen YouTube videos, which is real stuff, but this is like the closest, and it just, how we said, like the cinematography just helps it. And
Yeah, it's so intimate. It's so intimate
Yeah,
as far as
yeah.
pulling you in. Another note on the cinematography is we always talk about intentionality.
Yeah.
And I love the shot when both the main character and his close friend, I forgot their names, but they're basically taking a crap. They're on that little like sitter thing.
Sure.
And
Very
what's-
intimate moment.
Which-
Very intimate.
but what's interesting about it is that they shot in a way where it's a an over the shoulder shot,
Uh-huh.
but the entire time, though they're sitting right next to each other, their friends out of focus, and it to show how distant they really are from each other. That they're close, but
and there's an intellectual distance too. One of them can read, one of them can't, and that's why there's doing that. He's reading the letter for him from his significant his wife.
Why don't you ever read letters like that to me?
On the
because we're out of
Yeah, on
time.
the crapper.
Because we don't have side by side crappers anymore, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I love how they kept it very close where you felt like you were in the action. It really pulled you in, but then also where it knew how to linger on moments, because really when they would go to battle, and I mean, if you just killed some guy, there is a moment that I don't think I've seen in a lot of other films where you have to deal with that. And like them, when they would go and shoot somebody or they'd stab somebody, well, that guy's in front of you. You can't just, he's not there anymore.
And by the way, I noticed, we usually go in war films, we usually go through the boot camp section of a soldier story. We didn't get that. And it made me
because
worried.
there was no boot camp.
Well, yeah, but it made me even more worried for the character, right? Like, he doesn't know how to fucking hold a gun.
That's very true. That's what I want to talk
for
about.
him to have that instinct was insane, dude. It's a good thing, I think. But
because you see them and they're a bunch of kids going to camp.
That's what I was talking about. Yeah.
And that's so
just the
heartbreaking.
change. Yeah, exactly.
It's so heartbreaking because
the song they're singing, right? When they're marching, and
then slowly starts realizing and starts seeing.
Yeah, because you go from the first scene, which is straight into battle, some guys, going and fighting for his life, and then the next scene's a bunch of kids being like, "Oh, we're about to be there," and then I remember we were watching, and that first scene where he says "Oh, I think this shirt belongs to somebody else," and it probably just didn't fit him.
And then
rips it off.
And then they show the shot of all the tags. Do
you think that was the first time? It was his first realization. Oh shit.
No, but that shot, by the way, that was crucial. That sequence of the soldiers being dead, stripping off their clothes and their boots, recycling them. That whole sequence was great.
And it's
but
parallel
I think to your
at the
point,
end of the
though,
film.
Gosh, I think he was still naive about everything.
Yeah,
So
because
I don't think he had hit him yet.
Yeah, he's wide-eyed.
Still on that right there with the.
No.
Yeah.
I think he's still naive.
because they were.
What do you think it hit him?
After that first battle, I think
when he had to tear off the dog tags.
When they're
then he had to assign that kid at the end to do it too.
Yeah.
Bro.
That redhead kid.
Fantastic film. I think we have a little more time. I don't know what other areas you'd like to touch up.
I mean, I just think that intentionality in directing too. All of these characters broke my heart. They really did, and I mean, everybody's go-to war film is Saving Private Ryan, right?
Oh, I think this competes with it.
I think so too. Just in terms of even opening sequences, right? That's what everybody goes back to, and that's fine. It was a great picture, and Spielberg killed it. But this goes deeper than The Roots, man. This goes
way better than 1917.
Oh, absolutely, man. Eon's better than that picture.
Man, this film will also break your heart. When the guy was, they had
the
soup.
fork.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Dude, so we get to that scene, and he's talking about how I don't want to be a cripple and this and that. And me and Dela were watching it, and they come back with the food, and I see him holding the fork.
I caught it too.
The moment he held the fork up, I was like, "Don't do it, don't do it." And then I was like,
"No." When he said it, not even when he got to hold it, he was like, "Do you have utensils?"
Oh,
look at this guy! Look at this guy, a butter knife.
It didn't hit me till he was holding the fork.
Man.
In my mind, I was like,
that
don't
actor,
do it.
by the way, that was fantastic.
Oh yeah,
man.
dude, for sure.
I didn't get that. I didn't get that at all until it
So
happened.
it shocked you.
It shocked me. You can ask Austin. We're just casually sitting on the couch. I'm like, "Oh my god, what's happening?"
And I was just there, like, "Oh no, why?" And then I was just freaking out.
Yeah.
And by the way, for the main, the lead, right? The lead. You didn't watch the films. I'm sorry. Spoilers. But the lead, for him to one by one, really he lost his friends. He
kept losing each
He lost
one.
his school buddy friends first day,
Yeah.
right? And then I think one of them survived or two of them survived. And then the ones he got attached to in the war, his superior, right, which is the last guy he's with at the very end.
Just one by one, getting picked off.
Just that actor too, man.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, man, these performances were fantastic.
Yeah.
But
what didn't you like about this film?
The kid.
the fucking farmer kid, that's who.
Oh!
I think we're not spoiling a ton of the film,
No.
but
Nah, they see this because
What I didn't like about it? I mean,
The
you know
general?
what? It broke
Just the
my
score a
heart.
little
Yeah,
bit?
that general,
score.
man. That piece
Oh,
of
yeah.
shit general that caused.
Doesn't
this
he
whole-
look like Jim Carrey in Sonic?
oh yeah, he was like,
yeah, oh
I'll
shit.
get you a Sonic. That guy.
No,
Yeah,
but
what a
it's-
piece of shit,
What a
man.
piece of shit. And you know what? I didn't do my homework. I don't know if this happened the way it happened.
Intern.
I think it did, right? I mean,
Interns.
well, I mean, that's a big thing to research right now. But like,
Yeah.
I didn't do my homework about it. But that piece of shit general. And by the way, a lot of these. What I love about this year, and this film included, we didn't get into like the tropes of political correctness in the films. Like, this film talks about class as much, almost as much as Triangle of Sadness does, if you really think about it. The train carts and the generals.
Oh,
and I mean, there's a
definitely.
lot of
and the
class.
food and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Where that guy who's making all the decisions,
Yeah.
well, he lives such a nice life, and he was like, you know what? Back to war.
Right.
Like it's so.
It's as much about class as much as it is about war, and war historically is a topic of class. If you
Yeah,
really think about
definitely.
it. Who gets sent into the front lines?
Right.
Who's drafted, and especially in the early wars, it's just there's
By
a
the
lot
way,
to go into. A lot
Kind of
of
like
territory.
you mentioned earlier with like Roma, and then also we saw with Parasite when that film won. Even though it's a foreign film, it really does hopefully bring more audiences to the realization that foreign films can be great,
Yeah.
and you can connect with it on any.
I will say this: we have 9 more pictures to talk about, and this is definitely not one of the weakest. However, I don't think it'll
Definitely
win Best Picture. I do think it's going to win Best International, hands down.
Yeah, for sure.
Hands down.
Actually, I think
That's
it got
it?
snubbed for editing.
No,
It didn't. I think
It
it got
didn't.
snubbed for editing.
It didn't get nominated for
No.
editing. You're right.
It's definitely not gonna win for visual effects.
No,
No.
the film that is, we'll talk about.
Yeah.
No, but I think it's got a damn good chance for cinematography.
Yeah.
I think
I was
it's
gonna
a
say
damn
that,
good
yeah.
chance for international.
What about for
think-
sound?
Oh yeah, it does. But I know it's not going to win. I know what's going to win for sound.
What's gonna be one for some?
Don't worry about it. We'll
Okay.
talk about it soon.
We'll get there.
But
I don't think.
Any
we'll win.
any final thoughts on this one before we move on?
As far as you were saying, it's definitely not going to win Best Picture, but I feel like the main reason is because
It'd be a good upset.
it'd be a good upset.
It'd be a great upset.
It'd be a good upset.
It's
I'll stop
'cause-
at good. Oh no, we got some
You
some
know,
really good winners.
what I feel is that when you look at it compared to like things that have been done in the past, we're looking at like 1917, we're looking at Dunkirk, some of the things that are pretty contemporary as far as war films go. I wonder if because it's so similar in subject matter, it's not pushing any envelope for best film in this.
You know
year.
what, man? War films get a bad rap
Yeah.
because there's so many of them. The
sure.
market is kind of oversaturated. We get a war film every Oscar every year.
I know, and this is
You know,
like the
so, like-
third film that's like in the
About that era?
1917.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
Different
that's
perspective.
what I mean. They get a bad rap, and then when something like this come along, people don't watch it.
No.
Good thing is it's on Netflix.
Yeah.
So I think that's where people are really going to start picking
By the way,
up.
can we talk about $20 million budget for this
20
picture?
mil,
Oh,
man.
Dude, shot in
now
the Czech
that's
Republic.
incredible.
In the Czech Republic, yeah.
Yeah, but we
just talking about that.
were what is it called? We were watching it, and then we were like, "Oh my god, I can't believe!" it. And we paused real quick because
20 mil USD.
Yeah.
And then we were watching it and just like, "Oh man, I can't believe it!" And then we played it again. 15 explosions and like arms and things getting cut off and all that. We're like,
Choreography
"What
is
the hell?"
insane.
Like, how
but,
did
but
they-
it just comes to show. We were talking about this earlier, and we'll talk about it when we get to that film. People are becoming way more resourceful in this era. The
Yeah.
indie, it's like we're in an indie boom for mainstream cinema, and that's kind of exciting. Like 20 mil.
Yeah.
This is insane.
Well, I feel like also filmmaking technology is getting cheaper. I mean, even
Yeah,
like the
it's true.
cameras
Yeah.
that we have and all that, it's becoming a lot more accessible.
We're
even
shooting
talking
on
about-
an iPhone.
Yeah, but no, Costro, we were talking about like wireless transmitters, and before that was super expensive. The whole,
Exactly,
yeah.
yeah.
And then now, I mean, it's becoming super accessible.
affordable.
Like that, indie filmmakers can start practicing real filmmaking.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's a good one.
great
Agreed.
picture.
Great
This is
picture,
definitely
great picture.
on the higher end of the scale for me
this
compared to
is-
like all the films because I just really connected with it. Beautifully shot, just wonderful story. I connected in a way that I didn't connect with other work.
Yeah, man, it's fantastic. It's
Yeah.
fantastic. Hands down. Go watch it. It's already on Netflix. You can really check this out. Watch this on the biggest screen you can with the best sound you can watch in.
Yeah.
Because I was lucky enough to watch an Adobe Atmos, and oh my god.
I'll also
It's my
say-
type of film. Yeah. it's-
When we talked to like Corral, he says that Netflix is
high
known,
standards.
highest standards for sound and sound design. So it's one of the few films. I mean, this one's in German, but he's like one of the few films that you can probably watch without subtitles.
Yeah, absolutely.